talk to you about effective leadership and communication. I was a bit confused as to what you might want to hear. And I thought that it is better that I have a very short presentation and allow you to ask the questions that you would like to ask, so that I actually tell you what it is you want to learn here, rather than me telling you what it is I think you should be listening to. And the reason I say that is because the topic in itself, effective communication, suggests that you must be having a two-way discussion. So if I stand here, tell you what it is I think you want to hear, and you're bored to death because I'm telling you about things that are of no interest to you, I'm not communicating. So it is very important that I'm communicating at the level that you would like it to happen, and then hopefully you'll have benefited. My name is Joe Muganda, as you've been told. I'm currently the group CEO of Nation Media Group. We're the largest media group, not just in Kenya, but in the region. We have operations in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, and we have ambitions to be much bigger on the African continent. And I'll tell you a little bit about my personal journey. I've worked, I was trying to calculate it yesterday, and I've realized I've been working for a very long time. I've been working for the last 29 years. I hope I look like I've been working for 29 years. I don't. That's a good thing. I've been working for the last 29 years, and I started my career, my professional career, working with what is now called Unilever. In those days, it was called East Africa Industries. And then I went off to work from there I moved on to BAT. From BAT, I worked for BAT for 17 years, Unilever 7 years. I worked, God, I don't know how many countries, probably. Out of the 17, 12 of them were outside Kenya. I worked in Zimbabwe, I worked in the UK, in Ghana, and all over South Africa and all over the place. And then about 5-6 years ago, I decided I'd had enough. I wanted to come back home. And I came back, joined Kenya Breweries, and I was the MD there for slightly over, about 2.5 years, and then I joined Nation Media Group. So I've been in the corporate world quite a bit, and I think I've made a good deal out of the efforts in trying to be in the corporate world. But there are a couple of things. First of all, I just want to thank everybody who thought about me, the Equity, the people at the foundation, for inviting me. Because for me, I think I'm the one who's privileged to speak to you. It's not the other way around. People tend to think it's the other way around. You are not here by accident. You are intelligent young people. You are the top of your class. When you were chosen to come onto this program, and a lot of you had, you are a bit vulnerable. And Equity, through its foundation, is doing a great thing at giving you opportunities to thrive and grow because you are capable. It's not because you are not capable. For us as a country to grow, you must get the opportunities that you deserve so that you can realize your potential. And I'm sure you've heard this story many a time. But in order to realize your potential, first of all, you have to be capable of doing something, whatever it is that you want to do. But also be capable of communicating those things fairly effectively and fairly clearly. If you can't communicate, especially if you happen to be in a leadership position, you will discover that you're not achieving much, because when you are leading, you actually don't do most of the things. When you're leading, you get people to do a lot of what it is you want to be done, and therefore you're leading through people. And if I'm going to ask you to do things, I better be telling you things that you understand. So if I stand here and start speaking in a language you don't understand, or in tenses you don't understand, in tones you don't understand, or in a culture that you don't understand, you will be very, very surprised. I mean, when you go and work outside the country, things that you assume are obvious are not always obvious. If you go to work in the UK and you try to pray before a meeting, people will wonder, where did this guy come from? It's not part of the culture. And the discussion in that place will be about this guy who prays before the meeting rather than what you told them. And I'm not here to argue whether it's right or wrong. What I'm trying to tell you is that you've got to understand the context in which you're operating in before if you're going to communicate effectively. I've got a presentation, and I'm going to talk about this gadget called the cell phone. You're going to do your exams at the end of the year, and then you'll go out into the real world. And I'm sure for those of you who, especially at your age, if you don't have a cell phone, you'll be trying to get one fairly quickly. I mean, it's the one single thing that everybody, at least your age, is keen on having if they don't have. And one of the things I keep telling a lot of people is this new advent of this social media world or the digital space. And in one piece of advice I'll give you people is, if you're not into that space, get into it. And get into it quickly. Because this gadget is defining the way we work as a media house. It's defining the way you communicate. It's pretty much defining the way we lead our lives. If you want to communicate with Equity, because you have a bank account, you don't need to talk to them. I don't think I've spoken to my bank manager for the last 9 months. Neither have I been to the bank. I'm communicating through this gadget and moving money around. When my salary comes in, I get a message. When I want to spend it, I spend it. On the back of this. Think about it. I think the median age in this country is 17 or about 18 years old. You are and a lot of you are just shy of that age. You are you're the most in this country. We write the newspaper. And let's be honest, when was the last time, who read the newspaper in the last 1 month? Put up your hand. You know, I don't want to believe you. You're certain you've read the newspaper in the last 1 month? Yes. Okay. At least I'm in business, which is good. And who went into social media in the last 24 hours? This is a very unusual group. Might be simply because you don't have your phones around. But I can tell you, it's in the real world, it's going the other way. So people your age, at least my children, I've got 2 kids. My son's 26, my daughter's 23. You don't believe me? That's the age of my children, and they generally will read the newspaper or read everything that they want to do through this gadget. So when I travel, I get newspapers because I work for Nation Media Group. When I travel, I come back, I find the pile, still in the plastic bag, waiting for me to read them. People your age are shying away from being in the newspaper, reading the newspaper. And that also influences the way you communicate. So, if you're going to write WhatsApp messages, which seems to be the new way of the world, we are learning to write in something like 10 words at most for every piece of communication and a picture. That's a very, very different place from what people like me and I think the people around this table were brought up doing. We thought reading the newspaper not only made you look important, it allowed you to learn about the ways of the world, which is true, but then you can access the newspaper through this gadget, and you can access everything, pretty much everything. So one of the things I would encourage you to do if you're going to succeed in the world is figure out how the digital space works, not necessarily this, because it's the new way of the world. And I'm not necessarily saying go and buy a phone immediately. What I'm saying is go and figure out, even if you want to become a doctor, technology is going to influence the way you communicate, the way you diagnose. So that's a very important thing. Now, what is leadership? Leadership, and I'll go through a very short presentation and then I'll allow you to ask questions. And they said the greatest leader is not the one who necessarily does the greatest things. It's he or she is the one that gets people to do the greatest things. I think that's very important. In my job, I don't write the newspaper. In fact, I can't remember when I last went to the printing press. I don't know what's going to turn up in the newspaper yesterday. I haven't seen today's newspaper because I came here fairly early. But I am sure the newspaper is out. I'm certain it has been distributed. I'm certain somebody's collecting money. And I'm certain that that money is being accounted for properly. Why? Because there are people I'm leading who are doing these things, and I trust them. If you don't trust people, why would you allow yourself to be led by them? Think about it. You trust your parents. They lead the family. If you don't trust them, for whatever reason, God forbid, you will not be having a great leadership relationship, and you'll be having a very poor, You'll be having a very poor leader running you. So one of the things I would like you to remember is when you're leading, it's about communicating and achieving through others. Now at your level, most likely, you're the school captain, some of you are. You're the prefect. You're the sports captain. You achieve your objectives by getting others to do things in a particular way. You don't do the things yourself. In order to do that, you have to be communicating to them fairly efficiently. Remember that. So, two things I've spoken about thus far. One is leaders do things through people. And the second, this gadget or the digital space is taking over the way the world communicates. In fact, there's a wonderful picture, I wish I had brought it, where people went to visit their grandma. It circulated a lot on social media, where you have people your generation have gone to visit their grandma, all seated around a room. The grandmother is knitting, and everybody else is on their phone, sending messages to each other, but they're in the same room. And somehow, you're communicating. My generation was not oriented that manner. We believe communicating is talking to each other. And I'd encourage you to talk because that's what I was brought up doing. If you don't talk to people, you don't build trust. But I'm just also alerting you that this thing is really, really changing the way we live. So think about it. When you're leading, you deal through people. And this mobile phone is helping you communicate. When you are communicating, always remember what you intend to be achieved. Always remember that. You don't communicate for the sake, especially in leadership. The message is important, but the outcome you are hoping to achieve is what will influence what you say it, how you say it, whether you're smiling, whether you're upset, whether you're giving an instruction. The important thing is what's the outcome. So I'm sure for the whole week, most people have been talking to you about the expectation that will come with passing your exams and being successful. They've thought very, very hard about how they were going to pass on that message to you. Because I heard a little bit about the person who was speaking to you about, before this, and I think I heard the bit about preparing for your old age. For me, it was very interesting because I also think I'm young. So I was saying, you guys, you have started early, which is a good thing. But you've got ways to go. And the reason why it was important that that person tells you that is because at your age, you're invincible. You can go anywhere. You can do all kinds of things. But you know, eventually we all get there. And you've got to think about that thing. And just about invincibility, I had the privilege of meeting a gentleman. How many people know a gentleman by the name Neil Armstrong? Put up your hands. What did he do? Pardon? You see, you're not communicating effectively. I can't hear you. What did he do? The first man. Now, can somebody get a mic and say what he did? He did, sorry. Shout. He was the first man to land on the moon. I had the privilege of meeting him. And I asked him a very simple question because, you know, I was feeling a little bit like you people with this great man. And I asked him a very simple question. So when you are going to the moon, what did you tell your wife? You're going to go to the moon and come back? And he said, we are clever enough, we will figure it out. And I had to think, what does this mean? And you people are pretty much in that space in your lives. There are 3 things he communicated to me as a person. 1 is be confident in your own abilities. We are clever enough, we will go and come back. We will figure it out. That's somebody who has a lot of self-confidence. The second thing he communicated to me is that how do I put it? He gave peace, I believe, to the family. Because think about it. You've never gone to the moon. You don't know how you're going to eat. You don't know how you're going to the loo. He might have walked out of that spacecraft and disappeared into space. We have no idea. He's the first guy to go. But I think by answering that question to his family, he gave them peace of mind that, you know something, we are going to come back. Let's walk this journey together. So as you are being ambitious and as you are going off to do these things, and the reason I'm saying these things is, you know, one of the things in this country, I'm sorry to say, we sometimes like having very low standards. I think when James Mwangi set up this foundation, some people told him, and I put my money, if I ask him, some people must have told him it's impossible. And there how many? About 1,500 today. 1,600. And you think about it that there are 4 sets of you through the schools, and there are some who've gone. How many people has he influenced over the years? It's quite a number of people. It's a couple of schools. And as you become successful and you allow yourself to dream, come back with those ideas and build our country, we all improve. But what this guy was trying to tell us is that I'm going to go and come back. Mediocrity is not part of my game plan. But the other thing he also added is we have a very clear plan, and we are going to execute it. So if you plan to succeed, you will get there. And the impact that had on me as a person was learning that you've got to think very, very high and then communicate that to the rest of the organization to succeed. So if I were leading you, I'll be telling you, you're all going to pass your exams with A's. And I think that's what you've been told all week. And I'd put my money that a big chunk of you will actually do that. You're bright. You know, in Kenya, when you pass your exams, we have this habit of saying, ilikuwa ni bahati tu. Sio bahati. If you don't work hard, I can assure you, you'll not pass your exams. If you're not bright, the likelihood of passing your exams is not high. You must have self-belief, self-confidence, communicate that throughout the organization or to your peers, and then you will succeed. America is not great because they have mediocre standards. They are great because they have fairly lofty goals. So dream. And I always, when I'm stuck, I always remember that guy. And it helps me temper my fears. Because if these guys could go to the moon and come back and step out of that thing, it allows me to think that surely I can achieve that objective. So you must always remember what your intended message is. You must always remember what the received message is. And the other thing you must always ask for is feedback from those who you are talking to. The other thing that I just wanted to say, which before I allow you to ask questions, is communication is not always the spoken word. The way you feel, the way you look when you're communicating. If you're angry, everybody will know that message was passed in anger. If you're jovial, everybody will know that message was passed in jovial. So the communication is both verbal and visual. And there's also a feeling in the room. When you're a friendly person, people generally will know we were in a friendly rooms, and people will tell you that. And those things influence the way you communicate. So dream big. Remember that the outcome is very important, and that will influence the message that you're giving. Seek feedback. And this gadget is influencing the way of the world. I'll stop there. Not because I can't talk more, I'm in the communications business. But I would like you to ask questions so that I actually get the feedback that I deserve and actually answer the questions that you want to be answered. Okay. Yeah, I'll be right in.
Thank you, Joe. And he also demonstrates effective communication, doesn't he? There's something he told you, and then I started remembering that a lot of these guys, Joe, are prefects,